Should you guys tune your WRX or your STI? No matter what year you own, this video is for you. We're gonna talk about whether or not it's worth the hype, the pros and cons of tuning, and honestly, at the end of this video, you should have a pretty good understanding of whether or not you should tune your STI or tune your WRX, and whether or not leaving that warranty not necessarily behind, or risking that warranty, let's say, is worth it. Now we're gonna split this video up into kind of pros and cons because it's not black and white. There isn't a yes or a no. We're pretty close, and I'll be upfront. The answer is pretty close to a yes, but I really want to give you guys a firm understanding of everything you need to know, not just about tuning, but what the real draw is and what the real con is, because I think there's a misunderstanding. And I'll be the first to say, if you're about to click off the video and say, I know exactly what the pro and the cons are, I think you'd be surprised, because I think 95% of people don't actually understand what you're risking. Most people just say, it'll affect my warranty, it's going to deny my warranty, or whatever, it'll void my warranty, and then they never think about it again. Or vice versa, they're just like, screw the warranty. It's not that simple. So the pros are going to be kind of individualized to each year WRX or STI that you have, but let's just talk about the general cons. So there's two major cons, and those two major cons are with your warranty and with how the engine runs. So let's first talk about the warranty. Everybody thinks that when you tune your Subaru, you immediately void your warranty, and this is simply not true. You can't actually void the warranty. They might tell you that you can void the warranty, but legally you cannot void a warranty. What you can cause is a warranty denial claim. Let me be very specific. Let's say you tuned your engine, but you have a problem with your coilover. Subaru has to prove that your tuned engine caused the damage to your coilover and then deny the warranty claim to fix your coilover. The likelihood of that happening, next to none, because you can also hire a lawyer. Let's say you tuned your engine and your engine blew up. They can deny the warranty claim. So when you tune your engine, it doesn't necessarily throw out the warranty for everything. You can still have warranty work done. Classic example, every single person that's in a 2022 plus WRX that's had AC condenser problems usually still get their AC condenser replaced under warranty, even if they have a fully built WRX, because Subaru knows that they can't prove that a tuned engine will affect the AC system. With that said, they may mark at the time that they have your car for warranty work that you had a tune at the time to document stuff in the future. It's getting harder and harder to hide engine issues that have come from a tune to a dealer for warranty work. Now, I will go one step further. There are some dealers that still will do the warranty work even if you are tuned, or even if they kind of know you're tuned, because they need the work. I see that happen all the time as well. So let's say you have an engine problem, don't just go to one dealer. If one dealer denies it, immediately take your WRX back and go to another one. The other thing that can happen, so just want to say that out loud, warranty is not void. It's just, it makes it a little bit more complex on how you do warranty claims. But the other problem that can happen is when you tune your car, you remove the factors of safety of it. That's kind of what tuning is at a broad spectrum. Engines are built with factors of safety, which are margins that allow your engine to go through kind of events and experiences. And you have all that margin. So let's say you have a spike in boost, or you have a spike in power, or it's very, very cold, or you change your altitude. You have some margin of error that your engine can operate under very, very safely. Those radical changes in events aren't going to affect it. Now, as you tune, you decrease that margin of safety. So as things happen that are, you get a little bit of knock, it's not that big of a deal if you're stock, but a little bit of a knock when you're tuned could be a much larger deal. Now, two things can happen with that. The first thing that can happen is you have an event with your car. So let's say you're tuned, you've lowered the factor of safety. Let's say you have a little bit of, increased boost, or your air-fuel ratio is a little bit different, or you have a little bit different of a fuel blend, and that changes the characteristics of how the engine's going. That could cause an event that could create an engine failure situation, right? So you increase the odds of catastrophic failure, and you lower the odds of your engine being able to handle something that could later cause catastrophic failure. Now, is this a high rate? Absolutely not, because we're talking about events that even if you were stock, you risk a coin flip of catastrophic failure. Instead, those events are now a coin flip and a half of, you go from like a 50-50 to a 70% probably will fail, 30% probably won't. So you just decrease the odds of your engine being safe. But those events, most people never have one of those events in their entire ownership of the car. Most WRXs and STIs may never have one of those events in the entirety of that car being alive. So the odds are low. The other thing that can happen is as you decrease the factors of safety, you put a little bit more wear on every mechanical piece of the car. That can be everything from the engine to even your suspension parts, because you're just putting more power through them, but mainly the engine. So think everything in your engine bay, your transmission, because you're running more power, because the engine is just making more oomph or whatever you want to call it, things just wear down a little bit faster. Does that mean things are going to break after 30,000 miles? No. But if you're thinking the car is going to last, let's say a stock WRX or STI, just for an example, lasts 200,000 miles. It might last longer, it might last less, but let's just say 200,000. I would guess that if it's tuned, that same car might last 170,000 or 180,000. So is it a lot in decrease of useful life? No, absolutely not. But is there a decrease in useful life? Absolutely. The car is just running harder. Now here we get into the pros. This is the fun part. And this is actually the easiest thing to talk about. The pro is that if you're stock, you don't even know what your car can do. The difference is so radical in every version. I mean, the VB has the biggest difference. The VA might actually have the second biggest difference, and then all the STIs have the third difference, and then the generations kind of fall from there. But just easy, low-cost tuning can make such a difference in this car that I would say that if you drive a stock Subaru that has a turbocharger on it, you have no idea what you're driving, and you have no way of even understanding what your car is capable. You don't even know how fun your car is to drive, because that's how different the power is. To give you guys perspective, stock to stock. So we're going to talk brake horsepower or crank horsepower. Those are slightly different things, but we can say they're about the same for this. When I tune this car, tuners give you wheel horsepower, which is after you experience your mechanical, your translational, and your thermal losses in translating power from your engine to your wheels. You lose on an all-wheel drive car about 22%, 25%, 20% on average. So it's a little bit of a range. It depends on your conditions, your temperature, your elevation. There's a little bit of a range there. But this car came with 271, I think, horsepower, crank horsepower from the factory. I make about 360, 365 wheel horsepower, which I would guess means I'm making about 450 to 470 crank or brake horsepower, which means that with maybe $2,000 of parts and tuning and everything that I needed, I have increased my crank horsepower from 271, probably about 200 horsepower. Now again, the reason we talk about wheel horsepower is it's much more like we know exactly how to relate these things. It's much more apples to apples than apples to pears, but people sell cars on crank horsepower. So I can say I'm near 500. It wouldn't take much more. Intercooler, maybe a mid pipe, and then I'm gonna break that 500 crank or 500 brake horsepower that you're advertising. So all of a sudden I've got all-wheel drive and I'm making as much money, I'm making as much power as most muscle cars are being sold from, and I have everything that makes the WRX or STI the WRX or STI. I've got the all-wheel drive, I've got superior handling. I'm just a better car. Now you've probably heard what I just said a million times, and you're like, well, it doesn't tell me anything. This is all I can say, and the only thing that I can do to convince you. It is so different that I have nothing else to say. I have no little incremental things that I can say that are going to convince you to tune or not to tune or what that difference actually is, because it's so different that there are no little increments to talk about. For perspective, I mean, I'll give you one sec further. I'm not going to roll the clip because I've got multiple videos now on the channel of it. There's a short on the channel. You can go look. But my 0 to 60 on this car went from, at best, like a 5.8 is my guess with a professional driver, to I ripped with no launch a 4.14. With launch, I can definitely get, if I were to launch the car, I can definitely get a sub 4 second 0 to 60 in this car right now. And I've spent maybe $2,000 tuning it. That is remarkable. There's no other evidence that I can say right there. But here's the deal, because a lot of you guys are still stuck in where you are, and I want to offer you guys a solution. The Subaru community is amazing. Kudos to you guys. Most of you guys, like 99% of you guys, are the coolest human beings on the planet. Here's what you can do. There are cars and coffee events, there's Subaru events all over the place. You can find them on Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, word of mouth. They're all over the place. They're usually weekend mornings, and they're almost throughout the year. Because we have all-wheel drive, they're even in the winter. If you have a stock car, show up to one of these. I promise you, most of the folks there that have tuned or built WRXs or STIs will give you a ride along and show you what you're missing. So at the very least, you know exactly the difference in what your stock versus a tuned WRX or STI can do, and you'll know exactly whether or not it's worth the hype. And that's all I can tell you guys, and that's the maximum amount of information you can see. I could make plenty of videos of ripping this car around, but it's not really going to give you guys the experience. So if you want to know, get a ride along. If you see me at an event, ask me. I'll drive you around in my car, rip it around, and let you know what you could be missing in your VB WRX. Guys, if you've enjoyed the video, please give it some love. I'd love to know that you made it through the video. Just drop a comment below. I like to respond to those comments, and I like to know who is actually making it all the way to the bottom of the video or through the video. And if you're not already subscribed, please, it would help me immensely if you subscribe to the channel.